With the latest county hot topics, news, business, and events. It's time for Spotlight on Cumberland County. Now let's join our host, Commissioner Victoria Gretsch, Lods.
Good evening, Cumberland County. My name is Commissioner Victoria Lods, and I'm here tonight with several of our wonderful departments here in Cumberland County. We have so many services that we do here in Cumberland County, and I know a lot of you don't always realize what is exactly happening. So I like to feature some of those departments and some of those services that are going on in the county with you tonight, starting with our Department of Health. Since it is cold and flu season, I thought of you first. Everyone around me is sick, Megan. So we have Miss Megan Sheppard and Miss Jaclyn Smith here from the Department of Health. So tell us a little bit about what is going on. Well, first of all, what is your title there at Department of Health? You are?
I'm the health officer.
You're the health officer. And what does that mean?
So the health officer ensures that all the public health priorities are met in your jurisdiction that you serve. So by statute, you have to meet certain public health priorities, essential public health services, and we ensure that that's being done in Cumberland County.
Fantastic. And you really do have a pretty big job here in Cumberland County because there's only one municipality that has a Department of Health, and that's the city of Vineland.
Correct.
Other than that, every township, every municipality is looking towards the county Department of Health, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And we also go into Vineland for some other programs as well that are more county specific, and we work very closely with the City of Vineland Health Department.
It's fantastic. Yeah, to have everybody kind of working in synergy.
Exactly.
So one hand knows what the other hand is doing. That's really important. Communication. I was a communications major, so communicating, making sure that, the message goes from one person to the next is so important. So what's happening let's go to Jaclyn too. And Jaclyn, what is your title?
I am the senior field representative for the health education department at the health department.
Okay, I know we just had this conversation, but tell everybody, what does that mean? What do you do?
So I have a couple different roles. I'll speak about one of them after Megan goes, but one of the main things I also do is outreach. So any health fairs, career fairs, anything like that. But I also can go to different schools, different organizations, different departments, and kind of just do anything that they ask me to, different presentations if they're looking for specific information on. I've done heart disease, I've done diabetes, I've done sex ed, kind of anything that they ask, I go to and provide the information.
Yeah, and in Cumberland County, and we know that we do struggle sometimes with those things with our health ratings as far as the counties, with the 21 counties within the state of New Jersey. So it is really important, especially for me, sitting on the county commissioner board, to make sure that we are being as proactive as possible in those areas you just mentioned, to try to improve that education to the population that lives here, to understand how important their health is, how important that preventative care is as well. And the things that they can do to sort of make sure that they're as healthy as they can be, and that maybe we try to bring some of those statistics up here in Cumberland County, right? With so much agriculture and natural foods and vegetables here, you'd think that we would be a little bit better, but sometimes it's about access and it's about knowledge, really, and understanding how our bodies work and what they need. So I'm so glad to hear that you're doing that. So Megan, tell us a little bit about what's happening on your end in the department.
We always say it's never boring in public health. We always have something going on. So we, obviously offer a wide variety of services to the population. Some are more common than others. So I wanted to highlight tonight, a few common ones, but also highlight some services that some people may not know that we offer or that's available to them.
Okay.
Certain things like food, restaurant inspections. People know we're out inspecting restaurants, and sometimes you may come to the health department if you need to get a certification for a safe drinking water certification, if you're selling your house, for a septic inspection. So there's some common things that people come to us for and they know us for. But some other things that we do in environmental. So I should back up a little bit. So we have different divisions in our health department. So we have our environmental health division, which has about 26 programs they run.
Okay, and what goes on in environmental health?
So it's so they have things like So we talked about the septic inspections, the safe drinking water. We also do some CHA programs, which is some programs we also do for the city of Vineland.
Now, I told you have to explain your acronyms.
I know,
to
County
us.
Environmental Health Act. It's required throughout the state of New Jersey, and I'll get better with the acronyms, I promise.
That's how you know somebody's really good at their job, when the acronyms just roll off their tongue because you're just doing it all day, you're busy, and that's amazing. And that means that you're serving the people of the county really well. But yeah, we want to make sure everybody understands,
So we have our CHA, our County Environmental Health Act programs, which is you have noise pollution, air pollution, and that's really for commercial properties. So if there's a commercial property that may be distributing, maybe an air pollution or they're quite loud, we'll go out if we get a complaint and investigate to see if they're above the certain decibels allowed for a commercial property, and then take action to try to correct it.
Yeah, and that is something that is a concern here in Cumberland County. While I know we think we're so big and vast, New Jersey is one of the most populated states in the country. So while Cumberland County, might not be as populated as the other counties in the state, it by far does not mean that we are underpopulated at all. So, we still are pretty densely populated here in the county, and we do have a lot of residential areas that do abut industrial areas, and so that the noise pollution, the sound pollution, all of that is important and is a concern. So that's something that you are monitoring as well. And you said about with the septic and water inspections too. We've seen a lot of home sales in Cumberland County. Have you been has that been on an uptick in your office as well? Have you noticed that?
A little bit. So we do monitor that. We keep statistics on that through our environmental health division and our assistant health officer, who does a great job keeping track of those to see where we are. So things actually were increased for a little bit and then kind of has plateaued, but we haven't seen a big decrease. So that's a good thing. So there's still a lot of activity going on in Cumberland County.
And when people have an issue, let's say with their septic or their water, and they're going to sell their home, what are the opportunities or options for them to sort of remediate those issues if they do arise?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because some people are kind of I don't want to say fearful, to call the health department, and talk to us about those situations.
Pandora's box, right? Once you open it, you
Right.
can't close it. So I want people not to be afraid to come to you.
To come and talk to us.
Yeah.
We'll help you sort through that. We keep, and we have very knowledgeable staff that can give you different options. We keep a list of the contractors that we know that do that type of work, the engineers, so we know that they're legitimate, because sometimes you just don't know, you're talking to different businesses and they're giving you different options, and some people just aren't aware of what's all out there. So we want to make sure people have all the information possible so they can make good decisions for their homes.
Sure. I mean, the majority of people, you only sell a home, a handful of times in your lifetime, maybe even only once, right? So it's not something you're doing all the time, and it's not a process you're always familiar with.
Correct.
And the process changes all the time. Even those who are doing it, on the regular, you still have to constantly educate yourself and relearn what's going on, because those policies, those standards change all the time. So there's a lot of options as far as remediating those issues. There's vendors that can do that. Is there any grants or financing?
Sometimes there's community block grants that the
Mm-hmm.
municipalities have that can assist residents depending on their income levels, sometimes age if they're seniors. So there are opportunities, and we try to ensure that our staff are aware of them so they can share that information when people do come through our door.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for that.
A couple of programs, because it's tis the season, we're going to reach spring soon. So talking about some of our commercial properties, and we also look at our rural areas and our farmland. So we thought this would be something interesting to share, because when the farmers go out there and start their seasons, sometimes they have farmland management programs, and they lay things on their farm soil to encourage growth. And
Tis a bit smelly this
exactly,
time of year.
Exactly. And so we get a lot of calls on that, and we try to educate the population that they do have sometimes approved farmland management programs, but we will look into it. We have inspectors, we call them certified sniffers. They actually go out and they actually get certified in smelling odors, like odor complaints. They know which levels are higher than others.
Sure.
So they'll go out and we'll investigate, and then we'll work with the planning or ag department to say, okay, does this farm have a farmland management program? Are they following it appropriately? But we get back to people to say, look, it's legitimate. they should be doing these certain things. If not, then call us back and we'll look into it further.
Yeah.
But I think we already had our first phone call on that for the year. So
well, it has begun. I know, we run a farm as well, and my brother's been in charge of the manure. We'll say he's gotten a certain nickname these last few days from my son, says he's a little smelly. But it's the price we pay to have that beautiful produce that we all look forward to in the summertime. Those great strawberries and the big green lettuces and kales and all of that, and that's why Jersey produce is just better than everywhere else. So we had
a plug.
That's right. We have to kind of go through this process to get there, but yes, but it is definitely the season. So as we prepare for planting and for new growth, so.
And then in our other division and other programs in environmental, we also do, again, a wide variety of programs, but one we want to highlight is our rabies program. So we offer rabies clinics throughout the county, and Violin Health Department does the same. So they're free to all residents. Bring your dogs and cats in, to one of our locations. We work with our municipalities to offer them throughout the county, so it's convenient for the residents. Bring them in. We have a veterinarian that gets vaccinated and gives you all the paperwork on that.
And Megan, where are all those dates posted? Where
we have them on our website.
Okay.
We also share it on our social media pages. So we have Facebook and Instagram, so you can always access the dates there. And then we also send out to the municipality, so they have those dates as well, and they share that
Does it
information.
go into the reminder or anything like that? No, it's all online.
Yeah, all online for now.
It's all
We used to
online.
send it out to all the papers.
And they could even
weren't-
look you up and call too.
Yep,
If people don't
for
have,
sure.
if people aren't online. I know some of our older population, they are not always online. And I always give a shout out to my grandfather, John Brady. He's the only one who tells me he watches. So, and he always tells me what I did wrong. So it's okay. But
Well, it's a good point, because we haven't looked in the paper for a while, so maybe we'll look and post it in the reminder and get that.
yeah. Somehow he knows more than most people do, and the man has never touched a computer. So what does that tell you about technology, right?
Yeah, right.
Maybe it's worse for us than better. But and another question about the rabies clinics: if somebody comes with an animal, and let's say they don't have a license for that animal, it's because we do have a huge stray population here in Cumberland County, different areas, some more than others. If somebody comes in with a cat that's been kind of hanging around their neighborhood, do they have to show that they have a license for that animal?
No,
or?
not for the rabies clinic. But when we hold the clinics, we do it in conjunction with the municipality typically that's hosting it, and they do have registration there as well. But no, we don't.
Because I have heard some nightmare stories from some of our constituents bringing in cats specifically that were stray cats in their neighborhood, and they have their own cats, and just kind of to prevent an issue with their own pets, they've brought these stray animals in, and then they've gotten fined because they don't have licenses for them. So I don't want people to be afraid or be discouraged of kind of doing that, because it really does benefit the greater good.
Right.
So I was just curious to kind of educate people again on that.
Yeah, we would not look to, fine on the public health side of things either, just to provide the service and, again, keep the rabies population, down in our community.
Okay.
And in the same token, we also do bite investigations, which some people are semi-aware of, but we're a good resource. So we've had individuals that get bitten by an animal, the stray runs away or whatever have you, and they don't know what to do. So let's just call us, and we'll guide you through that process.
Okay.
What are some options, what you should be doing, when you should seek medical care. And so it's we get a lot of people calling, like, kind of panicked, we're like, it's okay, we're going to walk you through this process and guide you what direction to go in.
Well,
just to
at
take
least
care
they're
of themselves.
concerned. Sometimes people get bitten, they think, oh, it's fine. They brush it off, and very quickly, you start to see the veins and kind of how things go so quickly if there is an infected animal that bites somebody. So I'm glad that you guys are such a wealth of information. So if you have questions, we got to call Megan.
Sure, for sure.
Jaclyn, right?
Sure. And usually we say, if you don't know who to call, it's usually the health department.
Right, yeah.
We'll
That's
get you in the
definitely
right
a good place
direction.
to start, right? Okay.
So that's, again, we do a lot of other programs in environmental, but there's just some of the highlights of that division. And I want to, of course, touch on our nursing services. Our wonderful nursing services that are always busy with all the different programs. So I think most people are aware of, we provide the flu shots, and now we're known for the COVID shots as well.
Sure.
But 'tis the season right now that we do our shots for tots clinics throughout the year. But a lot of children need to have their vaccinations for their schools by January 1st.
Sure.
So we run extra programs, extra clinics to ensure that we're there to provide those services to the underinsured, uninsured. And then try to make the connection if people do have insurance where they can get the vaccinations. So
Yeah.
it's a busy time of year for our nurses, ensuring that our kids don't miss any school.
Okay. And speaking of vaccinations, I know that the health department and the county recently just kind of came to an agreement to work together on one of our common spaces that we have at the county fairgrounds facility to utilize one of those barns, one of those structures in case we are ever in another pandemic. And we do have to have those, drive-through testing. And I don't even want to mention it, it's like I don't ever want to take that back.
So knock on wood.
But they were scary times for a lot of people. And we want to make sure that as a county and as a health department that we are prepared in the case that never happens again. But if it does, we want to be prepared. Always be prepared. And that was something that I was always taught. Always be prepared, right? And so we have done that. We now have a plan in place. We have a facility ready to go, on site, all the things that we need there in case we do have to do those drive-by clinics, testing, vaccinations, whatever it is, that is available so that we can really serve large numbers of people within the county. So I'm really excited that we've kind of created that plan together and that partnership. I think it will really serve us well for our, I'm going to call it emergency management,
Yeah, we're very grateful for that partnership because we found during the emergency, what most people don't realize is that we plan for these things on a regular basis. So yearly we would do our vaccination clinics for flu, and we'd also say if we had to do an emergency situation, like how many people can we get through a clinic, per hour. So we had all these models in place. We have a grant, and it's called the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Grant. So we're required to do certain drills every year to make sure we're prepared to the point where we have shelf kits for talking points, social media experience, trainings. So this was one thing that came out of the pandemic, is that we really didn't have a good space in our county to, offer these.
To execute your
Yeah,
plan.
execute the plan.
You had your plan, but you needed a place to execute your plan.
We have agreements with other facilities like, there's other, religious facilities, churches, schools, but because the COVID was so unknown, some people were like, we don't know if we want all this population coming through our facilities.
Sure, right.
It was scary.
Right.
So it made us rethink our planning and operations. So we really need to have a place the county owns that we can rely on.
Right, the county owns it. It's open space. It's open air. So all of those things, everything that we would maybe need or be concerned with, is there for sure. And I love that word that you said, that G word, grant. As somebody who's here to protect county tax dollars, we love when we can find grants to sort of pay for things and fund the projects that we're working on. So it's fantastic that you're working so hard and you find these grants. And I know that's just one of so many that you guys are utilizing right now. So kudos to you for doing that.
Appreciate that.
That's awesome. That makes our county tax dollars go a lot further.
Yes. And sometimes there's a good side to a public health emergency. While we're in it, it's not so good, obviously. But out of that, we usually do get funding to invest in our communities and into our infrastructure to just improve upon ourselves. So. And
then we know a little bit more, right? Like we know what now we need. We know how to, maybe utilize those funds to improve where we already are. So it's a learning experience. And also, obviously an opportunity to get more funding. So that's fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, and a couple other services our nursing division provides is our wellness clinic every Thursday night. It's in Bridgeton, 1020 Magnolia Avenue. We provide different services there. You can get vaccinations. You can get some wellness checks. There's different testing for communicable diseases. So it's a open clinic. We do it by appointment, but we do accept walk-ins as well.
Okay.
And that's every Thursday night. We have a nurse practitioner that we contract with, and she provides the services.
Okay, every Thursday night. You don't have to have health insurance for this?
No health insurance.
No health insurance required. You have to have identification for this. You do not have to have any identification. Anybody can walk in without really any sort of paperwork or anything like that and just get checked out.
Yes, anybody
That's
actually 12 and up. Usually it's adults we see, but we do accept anyone who's 12 and over.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. So again, they provide a array of services, but those are kind of like the highlights of what the nursing division provides. In addition, we have our emergency preparedness. So we talked about that already and about how we prepare for emergencies. So I don't want to leave them out. But along with something that Jaclyn does is our Medical Reserve Corps. So they are a group of volunteers that help us when there's an emergency. So we do incorporate them in some of our yearly tasks just so they are familiar with our operations, familiar with our staff. But during the pandemic, we relied on our MRC nurses to come in and help us with the vaccinations. We have anybody can join the MRC. Obviously, there's no cost. You get free training, and they just join online. You can get on our website and find the link to join the Medical Reserve Corps. And we do accept those that are not just medical providers, but we also do community, just residents as well. They just want to help out.
Okay.
And they can join that, and that way they're covered under the county insurance if they come help us in any situations. The liability coverage is there. But we really do depend on our volunteers in situations because you just never know.
Okay.
We only have, just about 36 staff. So you can imagine how much work there is to do during a public health
And
emergency.
if people are interested in volunteering, can they just call the office
Sure
and say
can.
they're interested in volunteering? And what are some of the volunteer options or opportunities that there are for people?
So we have, usually we focus on our COVID clinics and also our flu clinics.
Okay.
But we also have other things throughout the year. We have rabies clinics that we hold that
Okay.
people can come volunteer, and we'll
Okay.
train them to do some of the paperwork. We also have some individuals in the past that have just come in the office to help out with some other, community projects
Okay.
or paperwork.
Yeah.
And then, depending on their skill level, their expertise, we can incorporate them in other programs as well.
I know people are always looking a lot of times to help, and they want to help in a way that's really tangible, that they're not just kind of sitting around and, part of the backdrop. They really want to do, right? If somebody has the heart to help, they really want to do. They want to get in there and get their hands into it. So those are some fantastic opportunities that you just mentioned if people want to get involved and help in that health way. Some of our retired nurses maybe,
Yep.
or
And
professional
if they're a
staff,
retired
right?
nurse, we up to so many nurses, we actually pay for their licensure.
Okay.
So we get their education credits and we pay for their nursing license to join our kind of, our little dream team of MRC nurses that help us when we need them. So.
All right. And you brought Jaclyn with you tonight,
Yes.
right? So Jaclyn, what goes on in your day to day?
So I'm in the health education division, so I have a couple different roles. As Megan mentioned, I do MRC stuff.
No. You have to say
Medical
what you're
Reserve Corps. I'm the coordinator for that, so I do a lot of stuff with the volunteers and keep them engaged. As mentioned, I do a lot of outreach, so again, health fairs, career fairs, and then anybody else that really kind of comes into or reaches out to the health department to ask for information, whether that's to a group of people or just for one person.
Yeah, and pause on that because I think that's really important for people to understand. People think, well, they've never come to us. If they call the office and ask for this service, ask for this education, you are ready to come in and do that.
Absolutely. And if it's not me, if it is, it could be something pertaining to environmental or nursing. We always have people that are out willing to do and provide the information that's needed, but a lot of the stuff is not specific to the department, so then it will come to me. So anybody can call the health department and then they can ask for if they have an event coming up or a group coming up that they would like somebody to come talk to.
And what are some examples of groups that you've spoken to on what
So
topics?
I've gone to some schools. I've done younger schools, younger grade levels, with hand washing, cleanliness, everything in that sorts. I've also spoken to a few different senior center homes. I've done one on diabetes. I've done one on heart disease. I've even had a couple of the jails reach out. I haven't gone to because we haven't planned that yet, but it can be anybody, like I said, from preschoolers to senior citizens to anybody working at the jails.
So maybe like a religious facility, a church,
Yeah,
or a
absolutely.
senior center that
Absolutely.
you might come in and talk about like nutrition with diabetes or how to
absolutely.
treat it, things like that.
So anything. I've done mental health, done presentations on mental health. With diabetes, it kind of goes in with nutrition, so it's kind of nutrition and wellness with diabetes, what to look for, signs, symptoms, how to manage, treat, what the next steps are.
And you're talking about mental health, and that's a huge passion of mine, I will say. Concern, I think, is a better word. To make sure that we're meeting those needs, and that's why we have our next guest coming on after you to
Yes.
talk about those opportunities. But I think it's also really important to have you out there talking to people about what signs to look for,
Absolutely.
where they should start to be concerned. Because a lot of times, maybe it's just a bad day, or maybe it's, it's just been cold and dark out, or, this happened or that happened. But sometimes those signs are a little bit bigger. So it's important that you're out there educating people on really what to
Absolutely.
look for. And
that affects all ages. A lot of
It
people think
certainly
that
does.
it is kind of limited to one age group, but
Yeah.
it affects all ages.
it really
So-
does, especially I've noticed an uptick in even our older population, as, a lot of their family, friends, peers are, passing away. They become a little bit more isolated because they can't do as much physically. So, we definitely start to see that. And also, that feeling of, the time sort of passing you by, like we said tonight, everything, all of our information is online. And if you're not there, are you missing it? And do you sort of feel like you're getting left behind?
Right.
And so we want to watch out for our young guys, but also for our seniors as well.
Right, absolutely. And then just one other thing that I wanted to mention was one of my main roles at the health department is I'm the coordinator of OFRT, which is the Overdose Fatality Review Team for Cumberland County. So what that is, I do have a definition I don't want to read, but from the New Jersey Department of Health, they describe an OFRT as a multidisciplinary team that performs a series of individual overdose fatality reviews to uncover factors or system gaps that have contributed to a fatal overdose due to substance use. So essentially, each county in New Jersey has an OFRT. So Cumberland, I am the coordinator of the Cumberland OFRT. So each county runs their OFRT differently, but essentially what it is there are, I want to say, 30 to 40 representatives who meet monthly in a decedent review type of meeting. And this includes representatives. Obviously, I am there myself. We have somebody from Human Services who will be talking next. That's very heavily involved. We have somebody from the prosecutor's office, probation, parole, Inspira, the jail system, and then multiple treatment facilities for mental health and substance abuse. So we have representatives from all of these different agencies, and what we do is we meet monthly and we review 3 people that have had a fatal overdose due to opioids in Cumberland County. So these decedents are sent to me from the medical examiner. They're picked at random, so they kind of vary in gender, age, race, ethnicity. So we kind of have a wide variety of people that we're kind of looking into. And the purpose is to really kind of see their life, see what led up to this fatal overdose, their path, and different traumas that they've had. And that's where each agency representative kind of reports the information or any interaction that they've had with this specific decedent. So as coordinator, I send these decedents out and everybody gathers their information to report for these meetings. Like I said, it is monthly, so we do meet once a month, and then we also have a smaller executive committee with a few essential people that meet outside of those monthly meetings. We also...
Well, I love to hear how proactive you are on
Yes.
this issue. I know in the news, we hear that word fentanyl all the time,
Yeah.
and I'm an educator as well, and so social media and how it's reaching our kids. And I was recently at one of our youth services committee meetings, and we're talking about at-risk youth, and I said it doesn't matter where they live, what socioeconomic background they're in, if they have this in their hand, if any. And this is also a little public service announcement. I'm going to take the opportunity, but to our parents, to our families, if you don't think that your child is an at-risk youth, if they have this in their hand, I promise you that they are. And I have 2 young boys who are 12 and 13, and I work in the school systems, and so the opportunity is there. People are getting access. These young kids are getting access to any kind of substances using Instagram, Snapchat, and then finding a way to have it, brought to them. It's incredibly alarming at how accessible it is and how deadly it all is. And so we hear that word fentanyl all the time, and how it's just pouring over our borders, coming into our country, coming into our state, and certainly within our county and within our towns. And if we can't stop that, I'm really so happy to hear that our county health department is doing as many actionable steps as possible, and then we'll get into our human services department in a moment, but that you are doing as many actionable steps as possible to at least begin to look for some kind of accounting. How can we, now we're working defense here. So if we can't work offense, we're at least going to work defense, and that's what we're doing. What common traits do people have? Where can you sort of infiltrate yourself a little bit deeper, a little bit more heavily to try to prevent some of these things from happening? Because it is absolutely rampant and completely heartbreaking.
Absolutely. And especially with fentanyl, I'm not going to say all, but a lot of the cases since I've been in this role have had fentanyl in the toxicology reports. So it's everywhere, and it's not what people are intending to use. They think they're getting or ingesting or taking something completely different, and it has fentanyl or other substances in it. And that's kind of the purpose of the OFRT, is to see where maybe we went wrong, where we could have maybe implemented different strategies, or we could have kind of put ourselves or done things differently in this person's life, or where we could have maybe came into their lives, or if they could have reached out to other people, or if we could have reached them kind of where they're at.
What other things can be there to sort of be proactive about this and make it available. And I love that. And as we're a little bit over our halfway mark, but I have to ask, because I like to do this. As an educator, I work here at Millville High School. I was in Bridgeton before that, Vineland before that, but always high school, because I like to see our students as they're just getting ready to step out into the world. And the question always is, what do you want to be, right? When you grow up, they always get asked this question. And I'm sure anybody watching at home, you remember when you were in school and people would ask you that all the time, and you never really have an answer. A few people do if something has happened in their life that's really made them passionate about something, but not many do. And what I've realized is that a lot of our students, they only know the jobs that they see, right? So nobody is ever thinking about what the two of you do as career goals. So I just would like to take a minute and would you share with us a little bit about how you got into this role? What led you down this career path? So we'll do both of you if you want to go first, Megan.
Sure.
But I think it's really interesting to educate our young students and whoever's watching, talk to your kids, talk to your nieces and nephews, talk to your grandkids about what kind of jobs are out there, and that it's not always a traditional path that gets you there. Sometimes it's a non-traditional path. But I always say your dream job changes as your life changes, and one thing leads to the next. So what got you here, Megan? Tell us.
So I will admit, I didn't know anything about the health department when I saw the job posting. So I went to college for health and exercise science. I worked at the Vineland YMCA for the first 5 years of my career, and then into the Millville YMCA, and they have reopened that. And then I was looking for something just different. I also was looking to go back to school, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I just started researching, and I found that a public health degree, and I thought, that's interesting. I wonder what public health does. And then at the same time, I was looking for a career change, and I found a posting for the health department. And so I went, I applied, I got the position. Shortly after, I learned about public health and what that meant. I was a health educator, and then I went back to school to get my master's in public health and to really learn more about the program. But before that, I really had no clue what it entailed. I just liked health. I played sports my whole life. I liked being active, and I just thought.
So sports, you were a sporty kid, and that's what you wanted to go into. So that's what you went to college for. So you were probably thinking what, like gym teacher, athletic trainer.
I didn't want to be a gym teacher. I didn't want to be an athletic trainer. I'm like, but what could I do? And, that's kind of like similar.
That would be related to that.
This. And then I found public health and fell in love with it, because it's so diverse, the different things you can get into. And I just kind of went from there. And just, I tried to leave once. Got pulled back. I didn't get very far.
That's what happens.
And then, so it was one of those things. I didn't know anything about public health, and we're talking recently we're doing a public health needs assessment and saying how education is important, and that we really need to be in the schools so people can understand what we do. So we were setting up a meeting with with the tech to kind of say how can we maybe survey the students to see what they know about the different public health careers, and try to maybe be more active and more involved in those educational sessions with students so they know what we do.
Fantastic. So you kind of evolved your interest a little bit. That's great. And how about you, Jaclyn?
So out of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I went to community college for 2 years. I can't even remember honestly what my associate's in. I want to say biomedical. So then when I went to my undergrad, I found public health. So my undergrad is in public health, and I still wasn't sure exactly what that meant. And then I got involved with the health department and different things. I knew,
and she loved the county, and she just couldn't leave. I get it.
Yeah, I knew coming out of high school and doing my undergrad and associate's degree that I wanted to be in the healthcare field, but I didn't necessarily want to do nursing. I didn't really want to do that patient one-on-one contact because it just wasn't.
And that's what people think: healthcare,
right.
nurse,
and that's all I really
it.
knew.
But there's
that was
so
out
much
there.
more than just
Exactly.
nurse, right?
I wanted to do like the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure what that was, but that's why I kind of leaned towards public health, because it was healthcare, but also behind the scenes.
But you endeavored to persevere, and you
Exactly.
found out what else there was. So.
Exactly. So that's where I'm at now.
That's awesome. And you have a 4-year degree?
I have a bachelor's. I also just graduated with my master's.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. So I'd just like to share that little information with some of the people at home to let our young people know that there's really so many avenues and so many evolutions. And if you pick something, you can always switch it up. So I want to thank you both so much for coming on tonight. And I think we're going to take a little short break, and then we'll come back in a few moments with Melissa Niles from the Department of Human Services.
Allen Associates is a family-owned and operated full-service agency, managing a broad base of clients in the New Jersey area. Allen Associates has been a leader in health benefits and financial services, including health, prescription, life insurance, pension, 401k plans, and estate planning. With more than 60 years of experience and a staff of highly trained and dedicated professionals, Allen Associates is noted for its ability to build strong, long-term relationships with our clients and the communities we serve. Give them a call today at 856-692-2250. Allen Associates, your complete health and financial services, Vineland, New Jersey.
If the time comes, be ready. Learn CPR and join the nation of lifesavers. Nearly 3 out of 4 cardiac arrests that don't happen in hospitals happen in homes. CPR saved my life. I've teamed up with the American Heart Association as a national ambassador to help create a nation of lifesavers, turning bystanders into lifesavers through CPR education and access to AEDs. Join me to ensure everyone has the chance to live longer, healthier lives. Visit heart.org/nation.
Complete Care has some big news to share with you,
We're here opening more locations and offering more services every day.
including our newest locations on Pearl Street in Bridgeton and High Street in Millville.
We're here with convenient, high quality, and accessible healthcare services all under one roof.
We're here just a call or email away.
We're here to provide compassionate care for you and your family.
We're here and we're ready when you are.
Complete Care Health Network, ready when you are.
At Mintz Insurance, we're proud to have been serving our customers for nearly 80 years, offering 30 different insurance products for your auto, home, and business. And to help ensure that you're getting the best rates possible, we give you up to 3 quotes for every policy, so you can choose what's right for you. At Mintz, we're part of the community, local representatives, supporting events, and proud of it. It's part of who we are. Mintz Insurance. Call today and find out how we can help you save on insurance, or visit us at mintzinsurance.com.
We're all looking for God. All the signs point to, there is really a God. We try to find Him in all kinds of ways, in all kinds of places, and through all kinds of things. But there's only one way to find Him. That's by personal experience with Him. Come visit us this Sunday. We can introduce you to Him. New Life Church, Millville, New Jersey.
Allen Associates is a family-owned and operated full-service agency, managing a broad base of clients in the New Jersey area. Allen Associates has been a leader in health benefits and financial services, including health, prescription, life insurance, pension, 401k plans, and estate planning. With more than 60 years of experience and a staff of highly trained and dedicated professionals, Allen Associates is noted for its ability to build strong, long-term relationships with our clients and the communities we serve. Give them a call today at 856-692-2250. Allen Associates, your complete health and financial services, Vineland, New Jersey.
With the latest county hot topics, news, business, and events. It's time for Spotlight on Cumberland County. Now let's join our host, Commissioner Victoria Gretsch, Lods.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. My name is Victoria Lods, Cumberland County Commissioner, and I'm here with Melissa Niles, our Director of the Department of Human Services. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So if anyone who was tuned in for the first half of our show, we've been talking a lot about the health services here in Cumberland County, and it really spans far and wide. I know you've been listening to, and you already know, but the county health department does so much as far as not just public health as far as our physical health, but it's also our water, our air, our animals. There's education, right? So many things that are happening. And I know that we touched on a little bit at the tail end of our visit with our Department of Health representatives, mental health here, drug addiction, drug overdose, those kind of things. So I know there are so many places that we can go with the Department of Human Services. There's so much that you cover, but I don't know if maybe we want to start there and kind of pick up where they left off.
Yes.
Because it really is a huge concern here in Cumberland County. We know that our health ratings here in the county have struggled for years, and we're doing as much work as we can to lift those up by giving resources and education to our Cumberland County residents to try to improve upon their behaviors and their health overall. But another component that really has kind of had a light shown on it, especially after COVID, is mental health. And so many things, especially in my experience, kind of are systemic from there, right? That's kind of where it all starts. And if our mental health is in a good place, sometimes we don't have some of those other issues that can sort of domino out of that and blossom out of that. So tell us a little bit about what's happening sort of in that regard with the Department of Human Services.
Okay. So the guests that were here just before me, the health department, they're a partner and they're the lead agency for the overdose fatality review team. And as Jaclyn was saying, the trends that we've seen, the substances that are present when people have passed away from overdose is fentanyl, I believe. So we've been doing it for 3 years. Only 2 cases, I believe, have had actual heroin. Everything else is fentanyl, cocaine, and
an analog.
Methamphetamine, and marijuana. And the way that the scene is described, it's like you could just tell that the person did not even intend to, they didn't know what they were getting, and it's instantaneous, it's so quick, and it's sad. And so one of the things so we identify, we call it social autopsy, and one of the things that we found, and then we developed an overdose response plan, and we have 12 different items, and some of the things are an easier lift, and some are more long plan, and some are in progress. And one of the things that was very glaring with the need is for grief counseling, not just for the family members who have lost someone, but also the people who were in that addiction using. Their histories involve a lot of grief and loss, early childhood traumas, things like that were largely unaddressed, or we didn't know if it was addressed. But those things definitely, mental health is something that's so, it's so important, but it's also something that nobody likes to talk about, makes people uncomfortable. But so my job is to help normalize mental health, because we are, we're body, mind, spirit. It all goes together. And if we only take care of my outside, and I'm not taking care of my inside, I'm just a dressed up garbage can. So normalizing mental health is very important. We have a stigma-free campaign, Stigma-Free Cumberland County. Back in 2012, the commissioners, back then they were freeholders. They signed a stigma-free pledge. But we need to do a lot more with that than just make a pledge.
Sure.
But one of the challenges that we have is because we have so much work to do.
So much work and so much need, I'll say that.
Yes.
And I know within our school
Tremendous.
districts, especially after COVID, especially after the pandemic, where people were isolated, our kids were isolated, and really didn't know how to deal with those emotions. Even if they weren't experiencing trauma, that was...
I see anxiety a lot in
Sure,
youth.
right. And so we see now, we have social emotional learning classes, tactics, strategies that are kind of, I know in the middle schools in Vineland, they have a full curriculum for social emotional learning. The high schools do as well. All the school districts are utilizing some kind of SEL, they call it, for social emotional learning. Strategies and tactics within their classroom, even amongst their staff. I know even the hospital, and I loved to see this, that after the pandemic, that they offered free behavioral health services for their staff, for nurses.
Okay.
Just doing telehealth over the phone, just to kind of talk about what they were seeing, because they were seeing a lot of really traumatic things. So there's been a lot of education, businesses, the workplace that's addressing that this is a concern, and they are being sympathetic to it and trying to do what they can to address it, yoga classes, things like this, any kind of mental wellness. But what services are we doing under the Department of Human Services to provide those counselors, to provide those resources, so that if somebody is struggling with mental health, where do they go? Who do they turn to?
So for mental health, our department does not provide direct services for that, but we have the Mental Health and Addictions Board that helps oversee and plans for services. It's the state of New Jersey that they directly partner with and fund the mental health agencies that we do have in Cumberland County. So our role in Human Services is more of a partner and a promoter and a collaborator and a community educator to raise awareness. So we work with the Guidance Center, who is our community agency for mental health. And we also work with Oaks Integrated Care, who has the acronym is ICE, EISS, which is early intervention, but we call it urgent mental health care. So that's for people who have an immediate need where they're not suicidal, because that's a narrow window, that's imminent danger to self or others.
Sure.
So these people aren't in crisis per se, but they can't afford to wait 3 months on a wait list before they get seen. So they can go to Oaks Integrated Care, which is on Magnolia and Lincoln Avenue, and it's free, and they can walk in. They use the living room model. And they are open 6 days a week. I believe they're open until 7 o'clock at night at least on those 6 days. And they can just walk right in and say, hey, I need to talk to someone. And they can be connected with a psychiatric nurse to do an assessment to see if they need medication. Some people don't necessarily need or want the medication, which is fine, but they'll be connected and paired with a counselor who will work with them to stabilize them and also connect them to longer-term services. So there's a continuum. So I am a very big advocate. We need more mental health resources in Cumberland County.
Absolutely.
So we do have, through our department, our Mental Health and Addictions Office, we have co-occurring services, which means you have to have a primary diagnosis of a substance use disorder and a mental health diagnosis. In that way, we can provide certain mental health services. So we have a First Step Clinic, which is an outpatient facility in Bridgeton. We've been providing services to Cumberland County residents age 12 and up since 1975, and we continue that mission regardless of ability to pay. So for our clients who are admitted into treatment there for various substance use challenges, if they are, because we do screenings, and if it appears that, okay, they might be in need of or benefit from a mental health assessment, we ask them if they're agreeable. If they say yes, we hook them up. We connect them with our either a psychiatric nurse or a licensed professional counselor or both. And that's provided to them while they are in treatment with us. And, discharge planning begins at intake. So as soon as the person begins treatment with us, we work on their long-term plan to help them sustain their path, because a lot of times
returning is always a challenge, I know.
and the continuum.
Right.
It's very important to,
well, I feel better now, I'm fine. Or,
Yeah.
maybe it's too hard, maybe it's too challenging, and they kind of slip back into that, that slippery slope and have that downslide.
True. So we want to make sure that we do everything we can so they have that smooth continuum, so there's no lapse in treatment, and they can go right from one stage to the next. A lot of times, though, like you said, people drop off, they feel better, or something happens, but that's part of, it's the nature of what it is,
Yeah.
and it's lifelong. But the keeping the mental health and substance use disorders, it starts out as something that, oh my gosh, like, why me? Why this happened to me? It seems like the worst thing. But if the person becomes open-minded, honest, and willing to embrace the help that's available to them, it's like a whole world opens up, and they can live a principled life, and they can live a life beyond their wildest dreams. And then they're like, oh, this kind of was like a good thing that happened to me, because in my challenges, I learned where my strengths lie, and now I can go help somebody else.
Yeah, and it's just getting over that hump, that initial hurdle, because when somebody else tells you, like, you have so much to, going for you, and it's not so bad, and we can make it better, and the person in that crisis mode can't see that, that can be even more frustrating. So it's such a delicate balance of kind of compounding and helping. So to have those services as readily available as possible, I think is so helpful, because as families, as friends, we're not medical I'm certainly not a professional in that way, a medical professional, to be able to diagnose those things, but to have those resources really readily available and have the community know that they are readily available. I think, that Oaks Integrated that you just mentioned, that anyone can walk in there up until 6 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night, 6 days a week.
Regardless of ability to pay. Doesn't matter.
That's a huge piece of knowledge and information, that when something is really going wrong and somebody is facing that moment and they don't know what to do, and maybe they let the person walk out of the house, or or maybe there's a physical alter, whatever, it happens. I think it's so important to know that those resources are there, and to get that information out as much as possible, and to increase those resources. We have a really big county, right? That one facility that's kind of small compared to the square mileage that we serve here in the county that we cover. The guidance center you mentioned, they do a fantastic job. But again, there's only so many people that are there, and that whole waiting for an appointment and finding the right fit. And I know a lot of people want to do telehealth now, and not everybody feels comfortable with that. So there's that hurdle. I know we have Inspira also, they have their behavioral health services, but just making sure that people know that they are here, and I think that's what your department, I know you don't service directly, but you offer, you're like the one stop for this, right?
We promote, support, help raise community awareness, and partners. So we have partnerships with the prosecutor's office, and there's something called crisis intervention training, which is a co-response model for mental health and law enforcement. So when law enforcement respond to a possible mental health call, the crisis intervention training, it's a week-long intensive training where both the law enforcement and mental health providers learn together. They learn about each other. They kind of enter each other's world, which is really cool. And they learn de-escalation techniques on how to respond to a mental health call so it doesn't escalate to use of force.
Sure.
And to help guide the person to go get help. And, the number one thing is time. That person needs time.
Yeah.
So working on patience. Anytime we ask, okay, I'm going to work on my patience, we know that means, we're going to get a bunch of trials, right? So, and time is one of our most precious commodities, right? And so we're like, time, we have to go to the next thing. And it sounds counterintuitive, but just like, it's so important to meet people where they are and let them, and try to seek to understand rather than to be understood, understand where they're coming from, and just asking them questions and taking the time to connect with them and treat them like human. That really works. I mean, it de-escalates. It sounds simple, but
And I know for our law enforcement agents, right, their job is to secure, right, make sure every safety, right, safety first, and that's usually an immediate response. It's not one that you should be slow to do, right? That's not really how they're trained, right? Immediately secure the situation, make sure everybody is safe. So this is counterintuitive to what they're being, how they are trained, and I think it is really great that they're entering each other's world, like you said, and can kind of understand, okay, we need the safety, but also if we're identifying that this is the kind of situation we're dealing with, it's like having a bomb, right? Now you got to go a little slower and have a little bit more patience with it. So I think that's really important training, and also one that I think has also been misrepresented in the news. People have talked about, when I have a problem, I don't want a social worker coming to my house. I want the police. Well, you are still getting law enforcement that's coming to your home or coming to...
It's a co-response model.
It's a co-response model. And I think that's really important for people to understand that you're getting both, and everybody is learning about each other, and having those cross-references and how important that is.
Yes, and we also have... as a benefit of receiving the CIT training, there's actually a program, a co-response program, that Cumberland County was the pilot program. The Attorney General chose Cumberland County for various reasons to pilot it. So they arrive together, and that's an acronym. I really can't tell you off the top of my head what it means, but I can tell you it's a co-response model that started with the state police, but now it's countywide. So the mental health certified screeners during certain hours are teamed up with a law enforcement officer to respond to these mental health calls. And when there are no mental health calls to respond to, they are doing follow-ups or checking up on the people that they followed up on yesterday or last week to say, hey, that's like a house call. How are you? Did you follow up with your appointment? Do you need anything? How could we help you? Because that's the biggest thing. How can we help you? Not because a lot of times, traditionally we do treatment or whatever you want to call it, to the person instead of with them. So this is more like collaborative, strength-based. So it's a pleasure to see the outcomes. And I think first year they had 0 use of force, which was amazing. And then the following year they just had one minor incident that was an outlier. So
and a lot of times, we see this all the time. I know in the county jail that people are misplaced there, right? If there's a mental health concern or a mental health issue that they're struggling with, and that isn't realized, that they can sometimes go into incarceration and then get held there. And now they're completely misplaced. Now they've compounded the problem, right? That this person was experiencing, this individual was experiencing.
Yes.
Where they really needed those mental health services, and now they have a whole other issue. So and that's overcrowding our correctional facilities. It's not properly placing or treating or addressing what the actual problem is, and we don't want to do that, right? As a county, as a state, as a country, we don't want to do that. So I'm really glad to hear that in Cumberland County, especially that we were chosen as the pilot county in the state of New Jersey, and that's a huge thing for us, that we are addressing these issues, and they are real. They're very real. They've probably touched many people's lives. Whether or not they talk about it or not. So I think that's fantastic that we're integrating both.
Yeah, and every year we do the Out of the Darkness, the Suicide Prevention Awareness Walk. That is very successful.
I've been to several of those. It really is a fantastic thing. And I know we talked about, the No Stigma Pledge, but that is something that does go beyond that, and that's something where you see faces from all walks of life, families, people that you didn't know maybe were touched by this in some way, but how much of an open heart and an open mind this community has for that, and a tender place where everybody really does have that heart to help. So I love that you do that. It's heartbreaking on one end, but it is a beautiful thing for other people to see. How open.
It's beautiful to be part of that too.
It is how open this community is. Yes.
Yeah, that's a real gift when we're able to connect on a deeper level. Just besides, do you see the weather today?
Right, and it happens instantly. I've been to a few of them, and it really does. One in the rain, and people are still coming out with their umbrellas. It's nothing stops them because it's sort of a last way that people can show their love for whomever they've lost or whatever they're going through. So
beautiful. Yeah. So one of my goals for 2024 is to expand, strengthen, innovate, continue to partner, and try to meet more of the needs of mental health for the people of Cumberland County. And the health department, they talked about their medical, MRC, medical something, but it's their volunteer.
Oh, yes,
right?
the volunteer program.
Bank. So I'm the mental health administrator of the county, and one of the roles in New Jersey, every county mental health administrator is the, I maintain the roster of disaster response crisis counselors, or DRCCs. So disaster response crisis counselors, similar to the medical volunteers, respond to various disasters, and it's over. But the volunteers, we provide them with paid training. They go through these rigorous trainings, and they have to get vetted through the state, and then they get their certification. But they're not allowed to ever self-dispatch. Like if there's ever, when something major happens, they can't just say or show up on the scene and say, "Hey, I'm a DRCC. I'm here to help. How can I help?" Rule number 1 is you wait to be dispatched. It's the state disaster of terrorism branch will tell the county it's okay to dispatch, and then we would contact the volunteers and tell them that they can be dispatched. But unfortunately, over time, and with COVID, there's been a lot of attrition statewide, not just Cumberland County. A lot of the volunteers have dropped off, and the opportunities to volunteer kind of essentially went away almost during, like for 3 years during COVID, and people weren't necessarily comfortable being at the screen, the drive-through screening places because of their own health care challenges, and not wanting to bring things home. Don't know if they're going to bring something home to their family. So now that we're on the other end of that, thank goodness, the state is providing funding to help us try to recruit more and revitalize the disaster response crisis program. And the main thing that I've learned from disaster planning is you plan when the sun is shining, right? So it's not a question of if, it's when. You just don't, something's going to happen.
Assume it will, right.
We just don't know what it's going to be or when it's going to happen. So you plan when the sun is shining. So
my boys and I have a saying in our family, there's no such thing as bad weather, just improper gear. You have to plan, you have to be prepared, right? It's never too cold or too rainy or too anything as long as you are prepared. And I know our Department of Health is prepared. I know that you are being prepared in the Department of Human Services. What other services are falling under your purview?
Before I move on, I would like to say to the audience, anyone who's interested in becoming a disaster response crisis counselor, please feel free to call me 856-459-3080. That's 856-459-3080. And I will call you back if I'm not there to answer the phone.
People always want to look to help, they always want to find a way to help others, and something where there'll really be actionable tasks there. And that's a fantastic thing.
That's the other goal for 2024 is the disaster response, helping revitalize that. So we provide, Cumberland County is unique because there's only one other county in the state that provides direct services when it comes to alcohol and substance use issues. And like I mentioned, First Step Clinic. So we've been doing that since 1975. That's treatment. But we're also
And who can go in, I'm sorry to interrupt, but who can go into that clinic?
Age 12 and up. So
do they have to have insurance, all these things? I know, again, this is another one. When that hits you, when you see that, your loved one has a substance abuse issue, and this is another one that hits, you're hitting all the things that are very near and dear to my heart right now. But when that is happening, when you're in that crisis mode again, it's a huge challenge to find where can this person be placed? I don't have enough money. They don't have insurance. So who can go into this facility?
So anybody, because the process begins with a comprehensive assessment, right? So unless the person is in, it's very obvious they're in acute withdrawal and their immediate need is withdrawal management, detox services, that's different. We will case manage them directly into a bed somewhere for detox. But if somebody is struggling, but there's not that immediate need where they have to they don't have that emergency of detox.
Right. They're just ready. I mean,
they're ready.
That's the emergency. They're ready.
Yeah. So they come in and they'll meet with a qualified substance use counselor who will do a comprehensive assessment to see. And it doesn't just ask about their use of alcohol and drugs. It's about their life. So, and the assessment is structured where it's progressive. It starts with the most non-threatening questions like, what's your name? What town do you live in?
Right.
What's your highest grade you completed in school? Do you work, etc.? And what's your medical history? And then gradually it goes down, and then it asks about family, all kinds. It covers everything. So it's a very comprehensive assessment. So based on the assessment, that's how we determine what are the next steps. And again, doing it with the client, not to them, right? Like, it's a partnership. Like, how can we help you with your recovery today? And also at the same time, please let us help guide you, because sometimes the person, it's the nature of the illness that tells you that you don't have it.
You don't,
There's nothing wrong with me.
That's right.
My wife is my problem, or my husband's my problem. If they would just leave me alone, I'd be
There's
okay.
a reason step one is admitting you have a problem, right? That is step one.
So it works best when there's that combination, that sweet spot of where the person is not only ready, but they're open. Say the honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. They're open to listen and to be guided. Like, okay, I need help. I don't think that I need what you're suggesting, but I'm gonna trust you and I'm gonna follow you, because you've been down that path and you've been successful. So obviously you know something that I don't. So I'm going to trust you and I'm going to follow you. That's when we have the best outcomes. It doesn't always happen that way, but it's a process. It's lifelong. So we provide that, and the person doesn't have to have money to come. There are some fees involved sometimes, but it's a sliding scale. The sliding scale starts at $0. The most anybody ever pays for anything is $50, which is the assessment. If anybody's enrolled into treatment and they don't qualify for the sliding scale, it's $30. We haven't raised that since, and I don't have any intention on raising it, because I look at it like this. It's if we raise the cost even by $20 or something, it's not going to affect my bottom line that much, but it's going to affect that person's ability to access.
It might affect that end user who's going to come in and
So
they might not have that $20.
Yeah, so we don't we haven't raised it in a long time.
Yeah,
I don't have any plans on
raising it. Well, I'm glad to see that, because it doesn't make much of a difference for all of us, like you said, for our bottom line, but certainly for the end user who's maybe thinking about coming in. So and how many beds are there? How many?
Oh, it's an outpatient facility.
It's outpatient.
So we have the capacity to serve up to 100 clients at a time.
Okay.
So we have intensive outpatient and outpatient services. We have an adolescent program. And, our youth are, they just teach me so much. Well, you're a teacher,
Oh, yeah.
They're just amazing. And the thing is, if working with youth, you can't be afraid of people, first of all. And you make them the expert. I like to ask them questions.
Sure.
You teach, and boy, do they teach me. They tell me all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And again, it's just developing a connection, hot wiring that connection with them, and that, because you have to have that first before you can really present any. Like, can I help you? But first you have to have that connection, and you have to be able to know how to do that quickly. So we also have a mobile unit called Recovery on Wheels that's out in the community.
Yes, we've seen this. That's fantastic. So what does that do? Tell us about that. I'm sure people have maybe seen that, different places. What's going on there in the bus?
Yeah, so I always wanted to have a mobile unit. It was my dream. And anybody who's listening, don't ever be afraid to share your dreams with anybody, because you never know who's going to come forward one day and say, hey, remember that dream you had? I'm going to help you out this way.
You planted a seed. Every time you say it, you plant a seed. Some of them grow, some of them don't.
Yep. I always wanted to have a mobile unit. And I would just share it everywhere. And one day, Barbara Nedahan from the Office of Aging called me, and she said, Melissa, you still want to do the mobile unit? I said, yeah. She said, well, what do you think? I'm going to early retire one of our CATS buses, which are the Ford... the little buses that go around the county providing transportation. I'm going to early retire it and give it to you so you could use it for your mobile unit. I said, heck yeah, let's do this. So that's how it started. And then the sheriff came on as a partner to provide a plainclothes officer to drive the bus. They also pay for the fuel. The prosecutor's office is also a partner. They paid for the retrofit, so the bus is like a mobile office.
Yeah, and I've been inside of it. It's beautiful. You wouldn't realize you're in a vehicle when you go inside. It's very comfortable, very welcoming.
So it's a partnership, and so we go around and how can we help you with your recovery today? We can help people get into treatment right there on the spot, so they can come with their bags packed if that's what their need is. We provide Narcan. We'll train them how to use it. We will provide them with Deterra bags, which are drug deactivation bags. So if they have unused, unwanted prescription drugs, by the way, this is for the public too, never flush your prescription, never flush it down the toilet. It contaminates the water supply. And a lot of people flush them down the toilet. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Contaminates the water supply.
I know there's bags you can pick up to dispose of them.
We provide those. They're called Deterra bags.
And how many days a week is the bus out in the community?
So 2 days a week is the mobile unit is out. We do scheduled, so they cover a different municipality each week and then an outerlying area. And then the second day of that week, it's what we call pop-ups, and we determine where we're going to go. Unfortunately, it's based on what we call overdose spikes. And an overdose spike alert is when, in Cumberland County, our threshold is when there's 4 or more overdoses within a 24-hour period, or if there's 2 fatal overdoses within a 24-hour period, a spike alert gets issued. It's issued by the state police, though. So it's a process that comes down, and then it goes to the prosecutor's office, and then they notify us. And then they give us the general location of where it is, and that's how we determine.
And you'll just go there. You'll go to that. Even if it might be a neighborhood, it might be a park, it just, whatever that area is, so it's visible so people can see it.
Yes.
And if there really is an issue, that it's there.
And as part of our overdose response plan, one of our initiatives is, one of our members came up with a really innovative idea that I'm not going to share yet until it happens, but
we'll have you back when you have that ready
that's
to
right.
go.
Yes, for the next episode. So that's how we determine where to go with that. One of the things that we're looking to hopefully do is, because again, the bus launched right before COVID, right? It was in August of 2019, and then COVID happened. So
there's been so many of those things, that right before, and they just didn't get that start they needed.
It kind
a
of
little bit of a lull.
Well, no, not a lull. It changed the vision, like how I had in my mind how it was going to roll out, because what. You might laugh, but I really saw like an ice cream truck type thing.
Okay.
That would drive slowly.
Yeah.
Park and hello.
And people would come on up to you.
Yes, and they would order their recovery or something like that. But because of COVID, we were we didn't really rove around the neighborhoods. We're stationed somewhere, but I would like to be able to rove around more, but with the bus. We do rove around through Knock and Talk, which is another program that we have. That's where our recovery coaches, they literally go knock and talk. So we take a list from overdoses from the week before, and then the coaches go and knock on those doors. And they do a house call, a checkup, say, hey, we heard that there was some type of health emergency last week. Are you okay? Is there anything we can do for you? So we're out in the community. We do a lot of street outreach, and we also have the Office of Homeless and At-Risk Services.
Yes.
I mean, you'll have to have me back.
I know, there's so much. But
I know we're out of time, probably.
I know, we probably are, but I could talk to you forever, because there's just so much, and it's just one thing is just another layer and another layer. But that just goes to show you how dynamic that you are and the department is, and everybody that works within the department. I know you're not a one-man show, and you have a fantastic staff that's in there, and people that are just, really out there doing incredible work in the streets. And I also love to hear, and I hope that everyone at home does as well, that you are not just deciding you're going to go to this neighborhood or that neighborhood. You're basing it on data, you're basing it on information and things that have happened. And in my world, that's how I operate as well. We have to look at the data, what is the information and how am I going to respond to it? And that's what you're doing. You're looking at facts, you're looking at data, and you're saying this is how we're going to respond, and there's a reason why. And I really do love that, because because it shows tremendous intention. And when we have a little bit more intention, I think that we can be a little bit more effective here in the county. And I'm so glad that you're there kind of at the helm and doing that work, and that people have these opportunities in their neighborhood. I just hope to be able to educate more people about them, and that's why you were here. And I thank you so much for coming on tonight, because people have to know, right? They don't know what they don't know. And that's what this is all about, and that's what this time is all about, is kind of letting people know when they're in those emergency situations, because that's what we talked about tonight. We talked about mental illness, we talked about drug addiction, we talk about alcoholism, any kind of substance abuse, and when those things hit your family, when they hit your friends, they become emergencies. And in those moments, you haven't planned for it, but the county has, and Melissa has, and our Department of Health has, and so those resources are there. And if you're struggling with those things, please do reach out immediately. And then, of course, my final question, and I told you, because I love for my students to know this, and I try to educate them on my background and my history, my path, which is non-traditional, and it's gone in a lot of different directions, and your dream job changes sometimes as your life changes. So tell us, how did you get to this career?
Okay, so how did I get to this career? So I definitely didn't. Where I am, I had no plan. I didn't even know that this existed. So, I'm a person in long-term recovery, which means for me, I haven't had a drink or a drug since September 30th, 2002.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And since then, my life's gotten a whole lot better. I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a taxpayer, I'm a homeowner, I'm a productive member of society.
Very productive.
Yes.
Overproductive.
So, when in my early recovery, because even though we're talking about all these challenges, the message is, recovery is possible. There's 27 million people across the United States in long-term recovery. Most people just don't talk about it because of shame and stigma, right? We hear the train wreck story, but very rarely do we hear the recovery story. So there's plenty of people. Recovery is everywhere. Make no mistake about it. So I was going to school to be a drug and alcohol counselor, and I got that idea because I'm a little bit arrogant too. And
so
when
you
I
could
was
do it better.
Exactly. How'd you know? When I was in treatment, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this is so terrible. I can't wait to get out of here so I can go to school and show them how it's done.
I share the sentiment. I understand.
That was my motivating
I'm pretty sure I could
factor.
do this better. Let me go.
Oh, that was my number one motivating factor. So while I was going to school, I also, I always worked in restaurants and hospitality, things like that. I had gotten a part-time job working with cater. I would work at different catering gigs, and one of them happened to be at the college. And it just so happened that night
it was Cumberland County College.
Cumberland County College, yes, at their George Luciano Center. That was one of the places where I did catering at, because they had a restaurant or whatever. They had a kitchen in there, a business, a company. Anyway, so the event that I was catering, I didn't know what it was. It happened to be the volunteer recognition dinner for the municipal alliances, which happens to be, that's the drug and alcohol prevention programs that are under my department now. So I happened to recognize the department head, who's Juanita Nazario. I don't know how I knew her, but I just went up to her, and me being who I'm so enthusiastic, I probably annoyed so many people back then, but I was just like, I'm going to change the world. This is great. I feel wonderful. You have to know how wonderful this is. Come on, everybody. So I was like, my name's Melissa Niles, and I'm in school, and I'm in recovery, and blah, blah, blah. And just like this one, he said, would you like a job?
Yeah. And what were you going to school for at the time?
To be a drug and alcohol counselor.
Drug and alcohol counselor.
But I was working part-time at a Mommy and Me program at a place called Sodat, who unfortunately has since closed down, but that was just part-time. And then I was doing whatever I could to make ends meet, hence the catering. So I just told Juanita I'm going to school for drug and alcohol counseling, and she just said, would you like a job? Just like that. So I said, yes, I would. So she scheduled me for an interview.
Yeah.
And that's how I got
and the rest is history, right? One thing to the next.
And she was she is my mentor still. So she just believed in me. I came in entry-level counselor intern, the lowest title that a person could have. And then I just, boom, like I said, I can do it better, right? So I'm setting goals. I'm hitting these benchmarks. I'm getting promotions. And Juanita has me under her wing, teaching me. So I'm very grateful. I'm here because I was in position. I wasn't too, even though I thought I could do things better, I still wasn't too humble. I wouldn't turn down any job. My first job in recovery was, would you like some fries with that? And I was a sandwich artist at Subway.
There you go.
But hard work is character building, so I'm not afraid.
And you learn something from all those jobs.
Oh, yeah,
I've had a lot
toilet.
of wild jobs too, and I learned something from all of them.
Yes, you got to do whatever is possible. I will scrub the toilet in my office. I don't care. You have to do whatever is necessary to get the job done. So having that mindset and just being a humble servant, catering and introducing myself, it opened that door.
I think that right there, introducing yourself, and I really wanted to hit on that because I want to tell young people, they're always doing this, they're living in this phone, in this box, and I have to tell you, lift your head up and talk to the people around you, because you never know what connection you're about to make, and it really might lead you to the next step of your life, the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So I really want to thank you for sharing that with us, Melissa, and thank you so much for coming on tonight.
I can't wait to come back for episode 2.
I know, there's so much more to do, right? We'll definitely schedule that very soon. So I'm anxious to hear more and just continuing to get the information out there. I want to thank everybody tonight for joining us. And if any of these things are touching your lives, mental illness, addiction, please do reach out. Please do not think that there is nothing out there to help you or those services are not available. They are. You can reach out to Melissa Niles at the Department of Human Services. You want to give them that number again?
Sure, 856-459-3080. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. We have 3 pages. We have Cumberland County Human Services, Recovery on Wheels, and Capital Recovery Center.
Right, and there are people out there with the heart to help, and I've said that several times tonight, and I really do mean that. There are so many people out there who want to open up their hearts and want to open up their resources. Please do reach out. And again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Commissioner Victoria Lods. Have a great night.
This has been a QBC television production, in association with our partners and sponsors. QBC broadcasts on Comcast Cable Channel 22, and live streams its programming on Facebook and YouTube. All rights reserved by Quinn Media and QBC, programming that serves the South Jersey market.